decided to take the DJI Mini 4K into some slightly new territory in actual fact. And discovered that here in the country of my heart, as D.H. Lawrence called it, with thousands of trees, it causes signal problems between the controller and the drone itself. So at times the footage may look a little stuttery, but unfortunately that's the way it is with controller to drone issues. You really do need clear line of sight, and so I wasn't able to get as far over the forest as I'd hoped in actual fact, but I persevered and got as far as I could. And I think for a unit of this nature, it actually did quite an admirable job, really. I mean, the 4K footage is very detailed. The saturation is good. There's some digital noise, as you can see, caused mainly by the signal interference, unfortunately. So it didn't come out quite as clearly as I'd hoped. Although when the camera stands still, as you can see right now, the digital noise reduces quite significantly. It's still a great little piece of kit, quite frankly. And as I said before in the previous videos about this drone, for just £280, I mean, what's not to like, And the scenery, of course, is fantastic. The photographs I took with it were absolutely grade A, just really, really impressive. This is the first time I've experienced a little bit of shaky footage, but throughout this flight, I got constant messages to the controller saying no signal between the controller and the drone, and I had to move position about a dozen times to regain some form of signal, and it was actually very difficult. So obviously that was another learning curve. When you're flying over territory of this type, I think you need one of the much more powerful drones, in actual fact, like the Air 3S, which has a far more powerful controller, and the aerial set on that is far better. But for clear line of sight, the DJI Mini 4K is great. And when there are no signal interference problems, the footage is superb, as we saw in the previous videos. But I decided to go down over Moorgreen Reservoir, which features in nearly all of the works by our local author, D.H. Lawrence. And I took it down to just 5 feet above the water, and then brought it up again by about a couple of feet, and because I didn't want to actually turn the drone into a submarine, because obviously it's not a submarine, it's a drone. And but it was very interesting, very enjoyable, just loitering above the reservoir at such a low altitude. It's the first time, obviously, I've seen this reservoir, which nearly all local people love. D.H. Lawrence himself loved it, referred to it frequently in his descriptions of the country of my heart. And I feel exactly the same way about this area. I've always regarded it as the country of my heart. When I'm away from this area, this is one of the few things that I actually pine for. I will always miss this place. And the reservoir is fantastic. Here, years ago, we used to trout fish. Now it's been turned over exclusively to carp fishing, apparently. I've not fished on it for many years, but back in the day, many moons ago, yeah, we fished here for brown trouts and ate them as well, obviously. And it's just a beautiful place. And before we had all this weather tampering, we used to get great summers and lots of sunshine. And I remember being here the night before I went in the army, basically just to say farewell. And it was fantastic. The swallows were screaming just above the water. and catching insects, and it was just an absolutely beautiful scene. And the local people call it the res, not the reservoir, shortened for the res. And that's what we've always called it. We're going to the res or going up the res, um, which is quite odd because the town I come from is actually at a slightly higher altitude than the res, but that's the local dialect. We're going up the res. And this is basically going up the res, but just a few feet above the res. And now it's autumn, the rich, deep brown and golden colours. They look quite wonderful in actual fact. And I've always wanted to see the res like this. And it was one of the reasons why I actually bought the drone. I mean, I've got stacks of photographs of this location, all seasons in actual fact, even covered in deep, thick ice in winter. And I love all of them. I love all of the seasons. But, being able to just hover above the water in this manner is just so much more interesting. It puts everything into a much bigger perspective. And so I decided to come back to base because of signal problems again and move to a different location, slightly different, just, about 20 feet away. And took it up, and then we can see the res in, from a different location, different perspective, and the beautiful forest and all of those rich, wonderful autumn colours, early winter colours, because it is now winter. And yeah, it's just fantastic, and you can understand quite easily when you see it from this perspective, which obviously D.H. Lawrence never did, why he actually referred to it as the country of my heart. And there you'll see a building to the left of the frame. That's the hunting lodge, the old Barber family. Many people here believe that Lady Chatterley's lover was actually based on, an affair between the one of the employees of the Barber family and Lady Barber, although there's no evidence to substantiate that whatsoever. But that's part of the local folklore, and that's just the way it is. And forest itself just looks absolutely beautiful, truly it does. And this is the first time I've ever seen the forest at this altitude. I mean, I've flown many places, on jets, but never before been above this forest with a drone. And so I was actually trying to get as close as I could to the hunting lodge, but because of the sheer volume of trees causing signal problems, you know, basically I just couldn't get as close to it as I wanted to do. And like I said, I think the 3RS basically is probably far more appropriate for this type of work.